Anyway, so we're in London, and London is in a country called England, and we're more specifically in this little town called Kingston upon Thames.
Hello, governor.
Right. And so me and this guy named Eddie, we were out at the farmer's market, right? We were walking around, we were doing some stuff, I think some evangelism type stuff, right? And so we wrapped that up, and the guys and the girls of the group had been kind of doing some minor pranks back and forth. And so we said, look, let's go get a fish from the market, a little fish, maybe I don't know if they have like bluegill or something. We were going to go down there and get one, and we'll fill up their tub with water, and we'll drop a fish in there and just leave it, see what happens. And so that was our plan. We got this fish, and we're walking back, and we go into the hotel, and I think it's a travel lodge or something like that. And, we've got the fish wrapped up, and Eddie kind of stuffs it in his pocket in case we run into anyone, in our group. It looks suspicious if we walk in with a raw fish, right? Anyways, we walk in, we, hit the call for the elevator in the queue, so to speak. And the elevator door opens, and there is really, before the elevator door opens, we can hear this rustling around. There's yelling, and we're looking at each other like, what is going on in this elevator? Anyways, elevator doors open up, and there's two police officers standing in there, and there's a man laying on the floor covered in blood. And we freaking hightailed it out of there, dude. I was like, no way I'm getting in this elevator. So we went, and it was so crazy. I'm glad the police officers were there, because if it was just a man covered in blood, it would not have been a good story. But the police officers were there, and we left, and whenever we came back, we found out that someone on our floor had been stabbed, which is really that's the crime of choice in the UK. You know what I mean? It's not like, hey, let's do a drive-by and shoot up somebody's home. It's, let's go to the travel lodge and shank somebody, pretty much. They just do it differently over there. And so, yeah, he was yelling things like, it was always her. She did this to me. She attacked me. And, turns out the dude was probably a scumbag, and I think he stabbed this lady, and she was okay, but I think it was her blood that he was covered in. And who knows, maybe she got control of the knife and, took a couple stabs at him, but it was a wild situation. And the two of us, we went through with the prank. We said, look, a lady 3 doors down just got stabbed, but that's not going to stop me from filling up this tub and sticking a dead fish in there. So it was a wild day, and the prank landed. I'll say that. At the end of the day, the prank certainly landed. And so it was really one of the more interesting days of my life.
Yeah. That sounds, one, interesting, but two, also, I think there's video evidence, so we may end up sharing it if it doesn't convict us of a crime. Because I was in London at that same time. I wasn't with you and Eddie, but we split into two task force. Y'all were to get the fish, and then Lucas and I were to go get 100-piece chicken nuggets from KFC. So we grabbed the 100-piece chicken nugget box, and we get a call from you that says, abort the mission. Someone's been stabbed.
Which
So
honestly, going to get 100 chicken nuggets is the most American thing you can do when you when you're in the UK. Could you imagine these people behind the dang counter? You want 100 chicken nuggets?
look, they were underwhelming. They were, I don't even know. It was more like popcorn chicken, except it was so processed and it wasn't really fried well.
Right.
No offense, KFC, but oh well. Um, but one of that prank that we pulled was one of the greatest. I think it is the greatest prank that I've been a part of, or that someone's done to me. This one wasn't done to me, but there has not been a greater prank done to me. You know what I'm saying?
I
What
know
right
what you're
now I'm
saying.
saying, it's not making sense to our listeners, but since you can see my face as I'm explaining to it, I think you understand with the context given.
I definitely understand, and it may be a brain freeze that you're suffering from.
Yes.
The listeners and the viewers don't know this, but mere seconds before we started the podcast, Bo decided to eat an entire bowl of frozen fruit, and he was crunching on the berries and the melons and things like that. And it was, I was trying to start the show. I tried to start it like 5 times, and he's just clinking his little spoon against the bowl and chomping
Look,
on his frozen fruit.
if I touch it with my phalanges, then my phalanges get a little dirty. And we can't have that because I got to touch other things. So I have to
Like your
use
white
the metal
jacket.
spoon. Correct. Speaking of which, $4 at Goodwill in the women's section. It had shoulder pads, but they rode up on my arms, so I took the shoulder pads out. So I'm sorry to whoever put shoulder pads in. They are now in the garbage.
But look, you said it before, a little tip. The women's section is the best place to find really anything
Oh,
good at Goodwill. I found my jorts, my game day jorts, women's section, and they're women's jorts, and I just trim the bottom of them so you get that fray. But it's way better than any of my jeans because they've got so much stretch, and they
oh yeah.
hug. They hug and they shape my rear end, and it's
You need a
perfect
lot of
for a
room for
hot
that
day in Gainesville.
voluptuous rump.
Oh
Oh,
wow, what a start we're off to. What have you been up to this past week?
well, we rocked the new year. The new year rocked our world. Um, it's been 7 days since we last talked to our listeners, but since we recorded in person last week, we spent a couple more days together after the new year. You and I did. Um, so we were there in Texas for the new year. The Texas Longhorns played for the not the national championship. They played to get into the national championship, and they failed. Um, I wouldn't say failed because I don't like using that terminology, but they did not have the highest score in the game in which they played, meaning that they are not now playing in the national championship. You see, I don't think Texas played their best football, if I'm being honest. But I was glad to see it because it's been quite 10 to 12 years of suffering for Texas football and as a fan of Texas football. Anyway, that's enough of Texas football. I get back to work on Wednesday, and my schedule is a Sunday through Thursday schedule. So on Wednesday, I'm like, is this Monday? And then Thursday rolls around, and I'm still like, it feels like a Monday. So the week just flew by. And it makes sense because it's travel, it's the holidays. I felt a little behind, but I think I'm up to speed on most things. One thing that did happen, however, is when I was driving back to Gainesville from Milton/Texas, I stopped the night in Milton. When we got back, I arose the next morning around 4:45 a.m., headed out to Gainesville to get to work by 12. I had a couple of warnings pop up on my car, and it said, hybrid system warning. Please stop carefully and do not drive. Well, I'm on the interstate going 70 miles an hour. I have no time to stop. I got appointments to get to. I have lunch meetings to get to with other business people, you know? I have to get my affairs in order, if you know what I'm saying. And so I continued to drive. I did not stop. And I didn't stop because it would blink 3 times and then go away. And it happened only on cruise control. I found it to be very interesting. Now, this did happen, funny enough, when we went to London the first time. This happened whenever I turned my car back on in Gainesville when we got back. It happened had those 3, what are they? Blinks, sounds. It was like an alarm. That's what it is. Alarm buzzed 3 times and then it went away. I did it a couple times. That did not happen again until 2 years later, where it happened on my way to Sarasota. Same thing. 3 quick alarms didn't happen again until a couple months ago. It happened. It actually shut my car off. I halted up traffic at a red light. That's the worst place because I was in front of the red light, so no one can get around me. People are honking. It's 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, guys, cut me some slack. I'm trying to fix this thing. So 3 minutes roll around. I'm pressing start. It finally turns on. I go get the battery replaced. Seems like that's all good. Not the hybrid battery, the car battery. 2 different things. One of which is $250, the other of which is $10,000. So this is a long story, but it's going to make it a beautiful ending so far. This Wednesday, it happens 3 times, as I've said. Thursday, I have a meeting with John Park, who we talked about working at Papa Do's. I have a meeting with him at 7 a.m. Well, I turn on my car. I'm just driving out of my apartment parking lot, and the same warning shows up. Hybrid system warning. Please stop and do not drive. Well, usually it goes away after 3 alarms, but this thing was humming. This would not stop. I tried to drive 5 miles an hour for it to maybe go away. It did not go away. So I pulled in a parking spot. I turned off my car. I texted John. I said, car problems, give me 1 moment. And he said, no worries. That's just who John is. So I go to turn my car on. And now there's all of these lights. Specifically, the check engine light is on. And I'm like, oh boy, this is no bueno. And so I call Hyundai of Ocala. Let's get that right. Hyundai of Ocala. And they said, you're going to need to tow in your car to our location. I'm like, my friend, I'm not towing my car. I drove it to work. I have full faith in the Lord that he will get me to Ocala alive and with the car. And so they said, bring it in, do a walk-in situation, come as soon as you're able to on Friday morning. So Friday morning rolls around. I wake up at 4:45. I get ready. Do a little prep. And then I'm driving to Ocala, trying to get there by 7. Well, I get there at 6:50. There's 3 cars in line, which is amazing. But honestly, I walk in. The guy asks me what's wrong. I tell the guy. A couple hours pass. I'm working on our subscriber-only content podcast, which, by the way, our listeners can purchase right now. You can go watch our Texas vlog. I think it's amazing. It was a lot of fun to do. It's hilarious, if nothing else. But the guy comes up. He says, we figured out the check engine light. It was your gas cap. It just, it didn't close fully. So what do you call it? The fumes from the gas pour out and it sends a signal to the car. Well, when I got out of my car and told them what the problem was, I made sure to tell them that it was a hybrid system warning, that I kept getting these warnings. I took pictures of them. It said check charging system. I took a picture of that. I handed that over to them. Well, the guy who comes up to tell me, who I had previously, was not the guy who checked me in. So it makes sense. There must have been a miscommunication here. So the guy comes up and I'm like, well, that's fantastic. I'm glad we identified that as a problem. However, I'm curious about how that is going to affect my hybrid charging system. And so he's like, what are you talking about? And then we dive in to, I showed him the pictures, told him the problem. And once again, Hyundai of Ocala, they're amazing. All right. So far, I was going in, my mind, I was a little worried about what it may be. It could have been $1,000 fix. It could have been a $10,000 fix for a new battery, hybrid battery. But it ended up being a $50 update to the tech in my car. And this problem hasn't happened again, and my gas mileage increased by 5 miles per gallon. Now, when I searched on the forums, what does hybrid system warning mean? Hyundais, are there any problems? Everybody said when it got fixed, their gas mileage increased by 5 miles per gallon. And so if that's not a praise to the Lord, I don't know what is. I'm just thankful that I have 4 wheels that move forward and backward, really. And it's a blessing that they're the same 4 wheels that I drove to the Hyundai Ocala Gainesville location. Hyundai Ocala location, not in Gainesville. So that was that. Now, I have gone on a long time, but I'm not done yet, is the problem. So I have a couple more things that I want to share because they're worthy. They're pretty hilarious. So I hadn't eaten breakfast. I had a nutrition bar and some coffee from the place, from the Hyundai Ocala place. But I figured Chick-fil-A was in order. I don't have Chick-fil-A breakfast too often, though ironically the past 2 weeks we have had the podcast we've been talking about Chick-fil-A breakfast.
Right.
I go through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A. I won't name the location, but you can probably guess from this podcast where I am, because this is right after I leave the place. Well, I go through the drive-thru. I ask the woman, I say, wow, it's amazing. How was your Christmas? And she just walks to the next car. So she ignored me. And, I get it. I get it. I'm not that fun to talk to. So I'd continue to drive. Excuse me. So I continue to drive up. The guy gives me my order, but I just ordered a chicken biscuit and a cup of water. So I got my order before the car in front of me. So the car in front of me was still waiting. The car in front of me had a question for one of the workers. Well, all I see is the car in front of me just zooms off, creates a little skirt with his wheels, and I'm driving past. I don't have to stop at the counter, right? I can just follow this car.
Right.
So I'm driving past the counter where he just skirted off from, and I have my window still rolled down. And all I hear is one of the workers say, not only is he arrogant, he's also an SOB. And I thought to myself, Chick-fil-A. Wow. Out of all the places I would expect to hear that, Chick-fil-A is not one of them. So
He probably asked him, what Santa got him for Christmas, his 3 favorite things from Santa.
Yes.
And who knows, maybe he got coal for Christmas, and
I bet
that started
that's
a whole argument.
Yes. So that was honestly a hilarious encounter for me. That whole day was an absolute gift because I continue on my journey. I go back to Gainesville. Well, that night, I get to have dinner with our beloved James Gary at Chewy's, where we devour tres leches. And if you don't know what that means the 3 milks. And at Chewy's, the 3 milks is cake, sweetened condensed milk, and whipped cream. I'm guessing. There's some strawberries and some caramel as well. It's very, very good. It melts in your mouth. and some creamy jalapenos. Now, the very next day, I'm continuing on in my week. We're on Saturday. So we're almost done, my friends. Thanks for bearing with me. I go play golf at Turkey Creek. Turkey Creek is a beautiful area. I've never played at Turkey Creek, but I will now not stop playing at Turkey Creek because the course is immaculate. Now, Turkey Creek is not a sponsor of ours, right? But if we were to do a vlog on Turkey Creek's property, I bet they would be willing to give us free golf. I'm just speaking that into existence. So I played golf with Ricky Solar, which, funny enough, you know him, but we don't know him from the same place. So tell me a little bit about how you know the Solars.
Well, I knew him first. That's all I can say.
You did. You did.
He was, rest in peace, he's no longer, but he was in our Sunday school group at Lakewood Ranch Baptist. And so we knew them for probably 9 or 10 months, maybe a year before they moved up to Gainesville. And so they knew that we had just moved from Gainesville as well. And they said, "Hey, do you know any good churches?" And we said, we went to Westside and we loved it. And she said, "Oh, great, thanks." Because she was, she was pretty, I guess, anxious about finding a good church in Gainesville. And I said, "Don't worry, you're in good hands there." And yeah, put them in touch with some folks there. And I guess it sounds like they're getting plugged in at Westside. They're honestly a incredible couple.
Let me say this. They are not getting plugged in. They are plugged in, and even more so, they are getting others plugged in. And I think that's a testament to, I think when we look at that and say, how did a couple like Ricky and Susanna Solar get to Gainesville, and how are they doing the ministry that they are doing? They host a life group. They are on a leadership team. They do so much. And it's one, ultimately, because of God's faithfulness. But two, you can see his orchestration through all of it. I think it's super encouraging. Y'all, you and Molly, went to UF, Gainesville. You went to Bradenton to live. Well, Ricky and Susanna were in Bradenton living. Then they're going to Gainesville. That stuff doesn't happen by coincidence. What are the chances that y'all would be in the same Sunday school class and she would ask, "What's a good church in Gainesville?" And y'all have a great answer. And now they are getting people connected to that church in Gainesville. It's just a beautiful testament to the work of the Lord and your obedience and their obedience. So I celebrate that mightily, and it kind of pumps me up. I'm fired up about it because they are amazing. Whew.
Yeah, they're great folks, and it's certainly, like you said, it's too good to be a coincidence, right?
Oh yeah.
You can see things moving and things working. He's moving different is all I can say.
He's moving different. It ain't nothing to him. Oh dear. Yeah. Well, I've rambled. Well, actually, I take that back. I have not rambled. I have been calculated with my choice of words, but my words have just taken a long time to fulfill the full week story because it's just been such a beautiful and marvelous week. But I want to hear even more so about your week.
Well, my week I feel like a little similar to yours. So obviously the first 2 or 3 days we were still in Fort Worth. I think the New Year's Day we went to the Lightscape Botanical Gardens. You guys will get a few minutes of content on that if you go to the subscriber only content. But that was a really, really fun time. Just, getting to push Stetson around and see all the fun lights and all the music that's timed up to it. You could just kind of see his eyes he's just filled with wonder about, he doesn't know anything about lights. He's just seeing all this. This could be the galaxies for all he knows, So that was really fun. We had some bomb hot chocolate. It was way overpriced, but they gave you that hit of whipped cream on top, and it was so good. And one thing I appreciate is it didn't burn your tongue. A lot of places you get hot chocolate, and you get it, and it's just scalding hot. And this place was reasonable enough to give us hot cocoa that you could actually drink, right off the rip. So, I'll be forever grateful for that, because you could actually, enjoy it right there as soon as you bought it. And you don't get that everywhere when you get hot chocolate. So, we also went to Well, we didn't go to Heim Barbecue. I lied. I take it back. Jackson went and picked up Heim Barbecue, but we had that for dinner one night. And man, it was, so good. So good. I think, was that New Year's Eve that we got that?
That was New Year's. That was New Year's Eve.
I can't keep it straight. Just the whole week. I was talking to Molly earlier today, and I was like, isn't it crazy that 5 days ago we were in Fort Worth? Like, it feels like it was 3 weeks ago. But my brain doesn't do well with judging time and distance and things like that. So, but yeah, we went to Heim Barbecue. Obviously, we read some reviews in our previous episode on that, and they knocked it out of the park like they usually do. So that was incredible. Followed that up with some Rooster Booster from QT, a little late night trip to get some energy so that we could stay up to see the ball drop. And me and you were in the living room when the ball dropped. And I think we weren't watching New York, because we were in Central Time Zone. I don't remember which ball we watched drop, but there was one in Nashville, which I think is still Eastern time. And Leonard's, is that Central?
I'm almost certain. What time zone is Nashville in? Central Time Zone.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, that makes so much more sense now. So we're sitting there. It's 11:53, I think, and we're watching Nashville's. I think they drop a music note or a guitar or something like that, and the lady's like, "Introducing Leonard Skinner," and they come out and they play a dang Freebird, and the live version's 15 minutes long, So they're playing Freebird, and they're starting like 11:50. And this guitar solo, I mean, what better way to ring in the new year and step into 2024 than just like 12 minutes of absolute headbanging on the guitar solo from Freebird. So that got me amped up. Plus the Rooster Booster, and I was absolutely out of my mind right there. So.
Yeah, I mean, you were jumping up and down on the leather couches, kind of going crazy. And I was right there with you. So it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And then unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end. And we flew back down to Sarasota. And my buddy Jacob, he gave us a ride from the airport. Shout out him. He's a great, consistent friend. And we actually were supposed to go play golf this Saturday morning, me, him, and our buddy Todd. And I'll tell you what, when I say it was a monsoon that came down on Saturday morning, that's an understatement. We got probably 30 inches of rain in about 15 minutes. And it continued. It rained from like 6 to noon that whole morning. So we all woke up early because we had like a 7:15 tee time. I woke up at 6 to the sound of rain hitting the window, and I text the boys. I'm like, I might want to call the pro shop. I don't think this is going to work out. So our plan B was a little Waffle House run, and there's no better place to be on a Saturday morning than just
There is
pounding an
not.
all-star special with some
Oh
good
yeah.
buddies. Um,
Oh, I want to go to Waffle House right now.
it's with it being 24/7, honestly, it's really the early mornings and late nights are when it hits the best. But the best thing about Waffle House is the consistency. You know what you're going to get. You know, there's no surprises. People that go to Waffle House don't want surprises. I
Yeah.
want my eggs and my grits to taste the same as they always do. I want my waffle to taste the same. And that's the big thing about fast food is they can say, "Look, it's going to be consistent." But they don't do it like Waffle House. You're going to have a very nice lady taking your order, very kind, I should say. And you're going to get one of the most consistent meals over and over and over. It really doesn't change. So shout out to Waffle House. I really want to get their sleeve, their athletic
Oh yeah.
sleeve.
Oh
Those are
yeah. Their
those are
shooting
so
sleeve.
sick. They're so good, dude. We tried to get them in high school, but our coach wouldn't let us wear them, even though they were black and gold. They were already our colors. But that's
Sounds
a
like
whole
a
nother
bad
story.
coach.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, that was my week. It was long, I feel like, but it was a really good one. So
That's fantastic, man. I mean, I just life is good, you know?
it is. It
It's an
is. And
exciting time to be alive.
yeah, truthfully. And I think, it's great to see that we're both kind of getting off to our New Year's oaths. I was trying to get out on the golf course first weekend in, try to straighten out my swing a little bit. Um, and the Lord sent a storm and said, "I don't think so." So maybe he's trying to tell me something.
Maybe that
Maybe
was the
I'm
devil who sent the storm,
well.
who's
I
trying
don't
to
know.
stop you from reaching your oaths.
It's possible. It's certainly possible.
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know if I'm
These are the
prepared to have
questions.
that discussion.
These are the questions we must ask ourselves. Um, we must continually examine our lives against the scripture. And I say against, and I mean against, because often our lives go against the scripture. And the sooner we recognize that, the better we will eventually become. I think.
Hopefully.
What kind of sports have you been seeing? We kind of hinted at a little activity going on this past week with all the bowl games, but specifically, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, really, right now it's just NFL. The playoffs are coming up. The Packers just sealed their entrance into the playoffs, and it looks like it's gonna be. We could call it the Quite Frankly Bowl. Honestly, it's the
True.
Packers versus the Cowboys. Um, and look, I know Stetson got some cowboy onesies for Christmas, but I think next Sunday I may have to be the one dressing him. So we'll see. But it'll be a fun game nonetheless. I'm honestly more excited about that game than the national championship. But obviously, with the national championship, you've got Washington and Michigan. And Michigan, I don't know. I feel like it's possibly ill-gotten gains, if you know what I mean. Just with, the Stallions, dude, taking
Mm.
videos and going and looking at people's signs, and it just seems a little dirty. And I can't believe they still. I guess they suspended him for 3 games, but he was still calling plays
They
with the
suspended
way that.
Harbaugh for 3 games.
Right. I mean, if they suspended the whole Michigan team, then that would be a different story. But
Stallions is off the team. He's not a coach.
Yeah, right. But I mean, there's no way Harbaugh didn't know about it, right?
Well, he said he didn't know about it. I don't know. I mean, I'm a Jim Harbaugh fan. I think he's a weird guy, and I like that. Um, we need more weird gentlemen in the league. I don't mean that in a creepy way. I just mean weird as an unconventional. You know,
Yeah.
the guy's a Christian. Um, he's a stranger personality. It seems. I haven't talked to him face to face, but I just think he's funny. You know, he's
Mm.
quirky. Ah, that's a good word. Quirky. That's how I would describe Jim Harbaugh. He's a quirky gentleman. And I would like to rescind my comment on we need more weird gentlemen in the league. I would like to revise that to we need more quirky gentlemen in the league because I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, he's. I think quirky is probably an understatement for him. I don't know a bunch about him. I would say Mike Leach was a quirky dude, and I
Yes.
welcome every ounce of quirkiness that Mike Leach brought. God rest his soul. But Harbaugh brings a different energy than Mike Leach, I would say. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I don't know. I think he's headed to the NFL anyways after this year, so I think he's just leaving Michigan in a pile of rubble probably after he leaves. I could see them having some serious bans and probations after he's gone. He's kind of like the Bruce Pearl of college football.
Wow.
But look, I may be wrong. This is just a guess on my part. Anyways, I'll be pulling for Washington. If that wasn't clear, I was pulling for Washington against Texas, and they almost blew it. I could see you over there on the couch, dude, when it was getting close. You had a dang bead of sweat rolling down your face because when they were up by so much, you're like, "Oh, this game's over." Let me go get some brisket. And then you peek your head back in there with like 5 minutes left, and they're starting to give the game away back to Texas. And you sit down, you start sweating a little bit. That leg starts shaking. But they
Somebody
pulled it
scratches
off.
behind my ear.
That's right. Oh, that's a spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it. Texas just didn't come out to play like they wanted to win, you know? Washington, even if Texas won that game, it wouldn't be Texas winning the game. It would have been Washington losing the game.
Right.
They played better in just about every aspect. So that's just, I'm used to it. It doesn't really hurt my feelings. It's just, oh well, you know? They're positioned well for next season, and I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. What sports have you been taking in?
Well, if you remember, about a month ago, believe it or not, we were talking about what I thought to be the division or the FCS national championship between Montana and Furman. And then I figured out at 11 p.m. that it was just the playoffs. I think it was the quarterfinals it ended up
Mm-hmm.
being. Strangely enough, and I guess it makes sense because they would have had the quarterfinals, then the next week they would have had the semifinals, and then a week off to prepare, and then the next week would be the championship. But that's a long time. However, I come to you today to share news that the championship has occurred and it happened this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And the team I was watching, Montana versus Furman, well, Montana was in the championship versus the South Dakota State Jackrabbits or Jackals. I don't know exactly. Do you want to guess the score?
Oh boy. I feel like South Dakota State wins it every year. I think they probably blew them out. I'm gonna say 45-10.
You're right that South Dakota State won, and your ratio might even be very close. It was 23-3.
Oh, okay.
And if you remember anything, it's not about the numbers; it's about the ratios.
That's right. That's
Uh,
right.
And so that was actually an incredible guess. I'll have to do the math as to what that ratio actually turns out to be. It's a 4.5 to 1 ratio, but what would that be? And 3 times 4 is 12. No, maybe it's not a great ratio.
Yeah, I was off. But still, South Dakota State, I feel like they win it every year, right? I mean, have
Either
they won
South
it the
Dakota
past like
State or
12
North
years?
Dakota State. It's one of those two. South Dakota and North Dakota States, they're pretty good.
They know what they're doing up there.
They do. In that cold. Let's see. So we've received a couple of comments because, well, I have a complaint with our listeners. And this isn't best practice, of course, but I don't know anything we do that's best practice. Our listeners did not vote as to who had the better Diller's clearance find. However, our listeners commented, and one listener in particular shared a tidbit of information. Her name, and again, I'm sharing this publicly because the comment is public, so I have no problem with that. Her name is Amanda. She says, I have never seen a nightie that was so open, airy, and breathable that all so fit well. I mean, I feel like that's one vote for you.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it certainly highlights the pros, all of the pros of that particular outfit. Like she said, it's very breathable. It fit very well in my shoulders. Yeah, I mean, all pros and no cons. So I'll take that as a vote. I don't really appreciate being called a nightie. I prefer big and tall loungewear. But whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Indeed. Also, another faithful listener, Patty, who acts as our aunt. And it's no acting gig. She's a remarkable woman. She says, Beaver killing hour. Bubba desires what Bubba wanted. Moist as a butterfly. More for our Patreon audience. I'll give you a little turn. You feel open. You feel free. Finally yourself. This podcast has something for everyone. If that is not an endorsement of the Quite Frankly podcast, quite frankly, I don't know what is. When I read that, I wanted to run into a brick wall with excitement. And after running into a brick wall, I wouldn't be hurt from running into that brick wall. I would run through the brick wall. But that just fired me up a little bit. And it's exciting that people are loving it this much.
Yeah, I didn't know where she was going after the first two or three. I was like, is this a haiku? Like, what are we, I didn't know what I was listening to here, but I think I wrapped my head around it there at the end. But I was like, if this is a haiku, it kind of goes hard. So I wasn't like counting the syllables or anything, but
Of course not.
yeah, no, I think it's an incredible endorsement. And obviously, Patty, we appreciate you and everything you do for us, and everything you do for the podcast as well.
Absolutely. If our listeners are listening to this, we want you to follow us because during the weeks, we're planning on posting some pretty good stuff, for lack of a better word. But you be the judge, right? Don't take our word for it. Go judge it yourself. Give it a like or comment that it's terrible. Just let us know. We'll improve, and we want to serve you the best we can, because this podcast isn't about us. It's about you. And so you can follow us on any social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube.
Enough said. Well, I know we just got out of our little our Christmas season, and it's sad, right? It's sad to look back and say, "Hey, look, we had a great time, but that time is over now." Um, but most of my Christmas gifts are back in Milton, so the next time I see them, it'll be like, like a Christmas 2.0. But I wanted to get kind of your thoughts on what your most unique slash fun gifts were that you got from Santa Claus. So act like I'm a Chick-fil-A, window lady, and we're waiting on some chicken biscuits that right there, and I got my arm out the window. What'd Santa bring you?
Okay. First off, hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. I got here at work at 5:30 so that I could open. I'm a little tired, but your nice-faced and kind demeanor is really bringing me up. How are you?
I'm so good. And do you mind if I share with you why I'm so good? And then maybe you could share with me why you're so good?
Sure. I get paid by the hour, so I could be here all day.
Well, can I be here all day? Because I'll sit in this window all day.
Unfortunately,
I'm
we might have
enjoying
to-
the view.
Owen got
Honey,
me.
do you need some water?
Just tell me what you got for Christmas.
Oh, that was too fun. Here's what I got. I got some new boots. And not some boots as in the actual boot, but some new Hokas. Some have referred to them as jet engines for my sleigh, if you know what I'm saying. Perhaps some train tracks for my caboose. The caboose can't move without the tracks.
Of course.
So I've been introducing some interval running with my new Hokas. Because quite frankly, my old Hokas, they had some mileage on them, and every time I ran, it didn't feel too good. So I turned to walking. Walking was great. So I'm trying to do a little mixture of both. Kind of change it up, because doing the same thing over and over and over and over again every single day or every other day, it can get a little tiring. So have some fun with it. So that's what Santa Claus brought me. Santa Claus also brought me a squishy ball. It's like not a Play-Doh, but I don't even know how to describe it. But on the package it says, pinch me, touch me, squeeze me. So it's a purple thing that you squeeze, and it shoots out both ends. I don't know how to describe it, but I know I'm not doing well with describing it, so allow me to continue. I also, from Santa, got some patriotic rings. Now, these rings don't go on your fingers, they go in your mouth. They're sugary, circular items. And boy, oh boy, I have 2 at a time, and they are incredible. Not only do I feel patriotic, I feel alive. Quite frankly, they are delicious, if I can say that. And so those are 3 things I got from Santa. What is the status on my chicken biscuits?
they've still got another minute or two.
Oh,
Ralph in the
awesome.
back, he's a new hire. He hasn't quite figured them out yet.
Ah, I bet he's arrogant, isn't he?
Extremely, yeah, and ignorant as well. So if you could imagine that, he
Oh,
called me an
Ralphie.
sob the other day. So
Oh, Ralphie. You bad boy. Well, while Ralph's working on that, do you mind sharing what you may have gotten from Santa?
yeah, I can certainly do that. One thing I got was a camo hat that says Little Debbie Hunting Club on it, and it's so good, dude. It's so good. Um, I just think there's nothing better than getting up in a shooting house at, like 30 minutes before light and just cracking open a dang honey bun. There's nothing better.
Mm.
There's nothing better. And you got to put it on the inside pocket of your
Oh,
jacket. So when you get there, it's all warmed up from your body heat.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So you got your bib and you've got like a fleece or undershirt underneath it. You got to go inside there. Make sure you get that body warmth on there. Another thing I got was a Pura air freshener. I got one for my house and one for my car. Uh, they're both really cool. They light up whatever color you want. They've got a bunch of cool scents, and they're not like super overpowering or anything. Um, and I think all the ingredients are, I don't want to say organic, but it's not, it's not supposed to give you any crazy diseases or anything like that. And the one in your car is nice because you keep it plugged in all the time, and it only runs when it senses movement. So when you stop your car and park, it's not, wasting all of that juice or whatever is in there.
Right.
And sometimes when I'm in my truck alone, it can get a little stinky. I'll be honest with you, and that's why I usually ride with the windows down. But now I've got an air freshener, and I don't have to do that. So it's really, really come in handy. And then the last thing is a new microphone, which I used on our last podcast episode. You all probably heard my incredibly deep and hoarse voice, nay, horse joke. And I think hopefully
Somebody get the bucket.
somebody get the dang bucket. That's right. Hopefully, I think your mother is coming over to my house on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, and she's supposed to have the mic. So I think next episode it should even be even better audio quality than what we have right now. So those are a few things that I got. Obviously, I got some other stuff, but those are some of the unique gifts that I got.
Yeah, that is awesome. Now, I have a question. What is your scent of choice for your Pura air freshener?
So the one in my truck is Volcano. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's an incredibly
I've never
popular
smelled a
scent.
volcano.
I haven't either, but I want to like free dive into one whenever I smell this smell. But it's a very popular scent. I'm assuming a lot of our viewers and listeners would recognize it. And the other one is like apple something. It's like a wintertime, maybe apple evergreen or something like that. It's kind of like if you're in a house at Christmas time and somebody pulled a apple pie out of the oven or something like that. It's really quite nice.
I love apple pie. And
Same.
get a little scoop of ice cream with it. Oh, Bubba. That would be remarkable. I'm hungry.
Well,
Well,
did you catch
that's.
up on Southern Charm at all?
I was just about to talk about that. I don't think they aired an episode during the Christmas holiday week, which just makes sense. It's a brilliant marketing move because, quite frankly, people are a little busy on their Thursday evenings in that week between Christmas and New Year's. So I understand that. But this past Thursday, they released an episode, and it was the season finale. which I did not know that going into the episode, which when I found out, it made me a little sad because we've been on this journey together. And Southern Charm is, like we've said, a brilliant and remarkable television show. It's so brilliant that you and your bride and little baby, Stetson, purchased me a gift about sewing. And I mean, I don't know why I didn't wear it at this podcast, but next podcast I'm for sure wearing it. So I'm excited. But this episode didn't really feature Craig, hardly at all. In fact, I don't even remember seeing him there.
I think him and Paige went to a dinner party with Madison, right? Is that the right
That was
episode?
last episode.
Maybe. I think we watched them back to back, so that would make sense.
Well, as long as I'm not spoiling anything. If I do, I'm sorry if you haven't
You're
seen the
not.
actual final episode.
You're not. I've seen the finale.
Oh, goody. I thought, we talked about it at the very beginning of the show. Not this podcast show, but at the beginning when the Southern Charm show started about JT. Well, what does JT drop on the last episode? He drops the L-bomb. And it wasn't really I can't say that for certain. The editors portrayed it as not really a contextual L-bomb. It was just a, Taylor, I'm just going to say it. I love you. And poor Taylor. I mean, is it really poor Taylor? I don't know. But in this instance, it wouldn't be a fun position to be in. To be over and over having to drop the hint that we're just friends. Now, I will say, there seems to be a buzzword in the Bravo television scene that is the word threshold. And they continue to say, we haven't crossed the friendship threshold. And I just think it's an interesting choice of words. What does crossing the friendship threshold entail? I think of a threshold at a doorway.
Right.
You open that door, you have one foot in the threshold, over the threshold, but the other foot back. Is that crossing the threshold? Because if it is, I would say JT and Taylor have crossed that threshold. But again, I'm only commenting on what I'm seeing on television. And quite frankly, I'm willing to bet that that is not all that is going on. But those are my thoughts. I enjoyed the scene where JT stood up on a bar stool and said, look who's taller now. Oh, Bubba. That was just funny to me. But it was a good season, good finale.
It was really good. I think like you said, the L-bomb from JT was just so, man, it was hard to watch, honestly. But I can't imagine a better person for that to happen to. I just think it's perfect. Because she's in the middle of this, all this controversy. Nobody, I don't want to say nobody likes her. A lot of people are mad at her. And JT just pulls her aside out of nowhere. Hey, I love you. I would marry you tomorrow, I think is what he followed that up with. And she's like, I don't know what to do with that. I appreciate you telling me that type deal. And then, like you said, when JT and Austin are having this argument, I saw the little clip like 2 weeks ago of the finale, and it's JT talking down to Austin, but all you can see is like from his chest up. I'm like, JT's like he's like a foot shorter than Austin. Like, what is he standing on here? But he's on his knees on a bar stool, which is just like the image of like a second grader came to mind when they're sitting on their knees, like on some random like stool or something like that. Oh, it was so funny. I'm a little upset. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I would love to see a wide shot from behind of JT just to see what his legs were doing behind him while he was talking. Yeah, just moving back and forth like scissors, or he's spinning around on the bar stool. Oh man.
I wish they'd shown more of the fight, honestly, because I don't think it was really much of a fight, but it looked like Austin's shirt was tore up pretty good. So I wish they had captured more of that. That was probably the one regret from the finale there.
That's good. It was I mean, there's still the reunion, but I think the actual episodes are better than the reunions personally. Well, you might disagree.
I like a reunion. I like a reunion for sure. Just because people do so much dumb stuff that doesn't get called out throughout the season. And finally, Andy gets to sit down, analyze the film, and he calls everybody out for their dumb stuff. So I really appreciate that. And there's times when me and Molly are watching the show and someone says something just totally out of line and they don't get called out in the moment. And we just look at each other like Andy's going to tear them apart for this. So I like a reunion. It's fun.
Perhaps I in my life should create more buzz around the reunions, Really, really make a pizza the night I watch a reunion. I bet that would help with my excitement levels. So we are on a trend that is going over an hour for the past couple of weeks, and we haven't heard any complaints yet. But I think that's because our people trust us too much that we will eventually get it down under 1 hour. And quite frankly, the evidence is not backing that up. So one, I want to apologize to you, our listener, for continuing to let you down in that way. But two, also, I want you to know that we are kind of working to get it down to back under an hour. But quite frankly, you can tell we're pretty amped up about all that's going on in our lives, all that the Lord is doing through the people we know and through us and each other. And so it's hard to stop talking about that. So there's an element of greatness in there. But wrapping up, I want to hear your song of the week. We haven't done it during the Christmas season because it's so hard to include Christmas songs on the Song of the Week playlist. That'd be a crime to let me stop talking because this is a trend, again, that I'm on. Tell me your song of the week, my friend.
I'll finish your thought. It would be a crime against humanity for someone to be, listening on shuffle to the SOTW collection.
Yes.
And dang, Deck the Halls come up in April. You know what I mean? So in honor of our trip to Fort Worth, I was listening to a lot of not only country music, but a lot of country western. So my song of the week is The Chair from George Strait, which, we talked about at length. I don't really remember what episode it was, but obviously when we went and saw him in concert, there's a lot of discussion about it. And that's my favorite George Strait song, episode 2. There it is. That was a doozy.
Fishnets and Extremists.
Fishnets and Extremists, absolute classic. But yeah, The Chair, it's slow, it's good. George, he's putting the moves on some lucky lady in a bar, so it's an entertaining one for sure.
Oh, I can't wait to listen to it. This week, my song of the week is Flesh and Blood. Not Flesh and Blood. That's an entirely different song for our CBD candidates. Flesh and Blood by Emma Nissen, which Flesh and Blood is talking about the Lord. So, quite frankly, marijuana and the Lord don't really work together. I hate to break it to our listeners who have a... Let me stop. Let me stop there. Flesh and Blood, you want to talk about funky jazz Christian artist? Andrew Williams, who we talked about last week. He put me on this artist, Emma Nissen. I think she's Polish. I mean, the Lord's pumping out miracles in Poland with this song. So I praise him for. I just want you to listen to this song. I mean, as soon as you hear it, you're gonna wanna dance, lift your hands, run around. Like I always suggest, never listen to these songs for the first time when you're driving. It's a dangerous game to be playing. At least make sure you're buckled. I'll say that much. Maybe throw on the cruise control because you never know what your foot might do down there on the pedal. So I can't recommend it enough.
Well, that's awesome. That's a good word. And look, I don't want to ramble. Like you said, we're over time, and really that's due to me not setting my stopwatch. The past like 4 episodes, we get halfway through, and in my mind, I'm just like, man, I forgot to start a stopwatch. I have no clue where I am. So I'll let you go ahead and close us out if you'd like to do that.
Oh, I would love to. Like we've said multiple times today, Lord's doing a mighty work, and I hope he's doing one through you as well. And I trust if you're acting and obeying his commands, he is. So with that, I want you to know, our listeners, that you can reach out to us at any point with any requests, with any problems. You know, we aren't licensed to help, but we care about you enough to help with whatever you may need or desire. So, like always, we're going to see you. Rats! I'm going to back up. So, like always, we love you deeply, and we love you oh so generously, and we're going to see you in 7 days.